Mangwana ni mwalelepo Fukenjani Kleklas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, your essential daily update, bringing you the latest stories shaping the beautiful continent. We begin with the harrowing post-mortem report of Kenyan blogger Albert Ojwang, who died at the hands of police, revealing fatal injuries, contradicting official police claims, which we had in the news yesterday. Cameroon's opposition leader Maurice Kamto ends a period of intense police surveillance. Liberia sees politicians bailed after a parliament arson incident, while the U.S. pushes for Rwandan troop withdrawal from Congo ahead of peace talks. Zimbabwe's currency reforms are backed by the IMF, and Botswana's current affairs report by Rorisang Mogojwe complete today's lineup. Watch AGM on DSTV2 at 5, Core TV 25, 1up2.com, and NTV Africa on YouTube. My name is Ashwin Berry. Top stories shortly.
Taking flight has never been easier. Paratus is introducing Sky-Fi internet packages with speeds that will have you reaching for your seatbelts, starting from $500 million excluding VAT per month, with speeds reaching up to 10 megabits per second. There's even a prepaid option where you can top up your Sky-Fi internet for just $15 million per gigabyte. No contracts, no fuss. Visit your nearest Paratus branch to find out more, or go to paratus.africa/Namibia to sign up online.
Always prepared, Paratus.
Let's get into the top stories on Africa Good Morning. A Kenyan blogger, Albert Ojwang, who died in police custody, was found to have suffered fatal head injuries, neck compression, and widespread body trauma consistent with assault, according to a post-mortem report that contradicts police claims of self-inflicted injury. Ojwang, 31, was arrested in Homa Bay for allegedly criticizing the Deputy Inspector General of Police on social media and transferred over 350 kilometers to Nairobi's Central Police Station. Police had stated he sustained injuries by hitting his head on a cell wall, but a team of 5 pathologists found evidence of multiple externally inflicted wounds and signs of a struggle, ruling out self-harm. The Law Society of Kenya condemned the incident as torture and murder, demanding accountability for the officers involved. Opposition leader Raila Odinga described Ojwang's death as another tragic example of police brutality. Protests erupted outside the mortuary, with activists calling for justice. Kenya's Independent Policing Oversight Authority has launched an investigation, while several officers on duty during Ojwang's detention have been suspended. In our next story, police in Cameroon have ended a 2-day surveillance of opposition leader Maurice Kamto, who had been under heavy watch at an apartment block in Douala after returning from a political rally in France that angered the ruling CPDM party. The 71-year-old Kamto was prevented from attending a planned meeting with his Cameroon Renaissance Movement party, which he later cancelled before traveling to Yaoundé. Kamto, who previously spent 9 months in detention following the disputed 2018 elections, intends to run against the 92-year-old President Paul Biya in the upcoming presidential race, though his eligibility remains unclear due to electoral laws. Despite Kamto's promises to protect Biya and his family if elected, ruling party officials criticized him, and authorities have tightened security around CRM offices and restricted his movements. Rights groups condemned the escalating crackdown on dissent, especially as parliamentary elections have been postponed to 2026. Meanwhile, Cameroon continues to grapple with a violent separatist conflict in its English-speaking regions, which has caused over 6,000 deaths over nearly a decade. Liberia's former Speaker Jonathan Fonati Kofa and 3 other House of Representatives members, Abu Kamara, Dixon Seboe and Jacob Debe, were released from prison after paying a combined bail of $440,000 following charges related to the December burning of the Capitol building. The suspects face multiple charges, including arson, criminal mischief, and attempted murder. The fire, which caused an estimated $8.6 million in damage, broke out a day after protests erupted over plans to remove Kofa as a speaker amid a fierce political power struggle. Liberian police have suggested credible links implicating Kofa in the incident, although he denies involvement. Kofa had been engaged in a prolonged standoff with opponents who attempted to impeach him for alleged corruption and poor governance. Despite a failed impeachment vote, a faction appointed their own speaker. Kofa resigned last month after months of deadlock. Other accused lawmakers were held briefly before release, and a travel ban was imposed pending trial. The blaze destroyed the joint chambers of Liberia's legislature, but no one was inside at the time of the fire. The United States is pushing for Rwanda to withdraw its troops from eastern Congo before signing a peace agreement aimed at ending the long-running conflict in the region, sources reveal. This demand, included in a U.S.-drafted peace deal, is expected to provoke strong resistance from Kigali, which views Congo-based armed groups as existential threats. The conflict, rooted in the 1994 Rwandan genocide, involves Rwanda allegedly supporting the M23 rebel group, which recently captured key cities in eastern Congo. Rwanda denies backing the rebels, claiming self-defense against hostile militias. The U.S. hopes to finalize the peace agreement within 2 months and facilitate billions of dollars in Western investment in Congo's mineral-rich eastern provinces. Alongside Washington, Qatar is hosting separate talks between Congo and M23. The draft agreement also calls for a joint security mechanism involving Rwandan and foreign observers to address security concerns, and it would allow M23 to participate in national dialogue, a concession from Congo's government. Rwanda's full withdrawal is considered a critical precondition for peace progress, though Kigali has yet to formally respond. In the loss of our top stories, the International Monetary Fund has voiced support for Zimbabwe's ZiG currency, encouraging its full adoption as the nation's sole legal tender as part of potential inclusion in a staff-monitored program. Introduced in April, ZiG aims to stabilize Zimbabwe's volatile economy and tackle inflation by backing the currency with 2.5 tons of gold and significant foreign reserves. Despite these efforts, public confidence in ZiG remains low, with most Zimbabweans still conducting transactions primarily in US dollars and South African rand. The IMF highlights the need for measures such as deepening the foreign exchange market and eliminating the gap between official and parallel exchange rates to build trust in the currency. Zimbabwe's government, led by President Emmerson Mnangagwa, has declared a plan to phase out the multi-currency system and make ZiG the sole legal tender by 2030. However, challenges persist, including ZiG's 43% devaluation last year and limited convertibility, which continue to hinder its widespread acceptance among the public. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. We'll be taking a quick break, and when we return, Rorisang Mogojwe delivers the Botswana report. It's time for us to dive into the Botswana report delivered by Rorisang Mogojwe. Rorisang Dumela.
A very good morning to you, Ashwin. Thank you so much for having me on this very cold winter Wednesday morning. It's always a pleasure to be on Africa. Good morning.
It is really cold. I hope you're keeping warm out there. Now let's get straight into it. Botswana is cracking down on suspicious overseas job agencies, and this is amid human trafficking scandals.
Authorities in the United Kingdom last week arrested a human trafficking ring that is believed to be responsible for trafficking over 200 Botswana nationals into the United Kingdom. Now, these individuals are people who left Botswana. They left home in search of greener pastures in the UK. And so this human trafficking ring is believed to have used fake identities and also coerced some of these Botswana into fraudulent schemes. And so UK authorities made these arrests last week, and then when these revelations came to light, the government of Botswana, through the Ministry of Labour and Home Affairs, did highlight the fact that it has rejected multiple suspicious agencies who have been attempting to recruit Botswana for overseas employment. The Minister Pius Mokhare did explain that the ministry has actually received extensive intelligence on some of these activities, which are part of the organized crime ring. He confirmed that the government is currently re-auditing the country's passports in order to curb such operations. And speaking of the passport of Botswana, the High Commissioner did note that even though the 200 individuals were flagged as Botswana, some of them may actually not have been real Botswana, but they probably were holding fake Botswana passports, and therefore they were being flagged as nationals of Botswana, which is why the Ministry of Labour and Home Affairs then came out to say they are currently vetting and re-auditing the country's passport in order to curb such operations. The man and the woman, as we know, they are currently in custody in the UK, and they're suspected to have played a significant role in this human trafficking ring that facilitated the illegal entry of the 200 Botswana nationals who are predominantly from Botswana. And Botswana's High Commissioner to the UK did confirm these arrests, saying that the pair was believed to have been planning and assisting unlawful entry into the UK and Ireland using fake identities for these individuals who were out seeking greener pastures in the UK. And so UK authorities made these arrests last week with allegations that the group also coerced or pushed some of these victims into, fraudulent activities upon arrival into the UK.
All right, Rory, moving on to the next story. Botswana's medicine stock has dropped to 70% as health ministry faces financial strain.
The health sector in Botswana is currently facing a crisis of shortage of medication. The Ministry of Health has come out to report that currently it is operating on a stock level of just 70%, which is approximately enough for about 3 months worth of supply. And this falls short of the targeted 90%, which is required for a 6-month supply. Now, this was revealed by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Professor Nkomazana, who actually attributed the primary cause of this shortage to financial challenges that are currently being experienced in the country, specifically delayed payments to suppliers. She also noted that some of these issues emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic and have since impacted the timely production as well as the timely delivery of essential medicines across public health institutions in the country. She also explained that currently the ministry is prioritizing the procurement of essential drugs with a particular focus on medications for chronic conditions. She also came out to express concerns about or rather regarding the deteriorating infrastructure in public health institutions across the country. She says that poor maintenance as well as the deteriorating, infrastructure in public health across the country has severely impacted and continues to severely impact the quality of healthcare services that are being provided to members of the public. And so she is calling for this to be declared a national crisis and for government to deal with the health sector and all of its challenges diligently and as quickly as possible in order to avoid further loss of life.
All right, Rory. Now we move on to some positive news in the creative sector. The European Film Festival returns to Botswana with local talent in the spotlight.
Well, film lovers will be glad to hear that the European Film Festival is set to return to Botswana for its 7th edition to take place right here in Gaborone between the 18th and the 21st of this month of June. The festival is a collaboration between the EU delegation to Botswana and SADC as well as the French organization of Alliance Francaise, and it aims to celebrate the rich and diverse cinematic culture of Europe while also celebrating local talent right here in Botswana. The EU ambassador to SADC and Botswana did say that the goal of the film festival is really to showcase the artistic excellence of Europe's culture through the lens, through film, while also celebrating locally produced films right here in Botswana, local talent rather. And this year's festival will prominently feature some of Botswana's produced short films. And the director of Alliance Francaise did note an increase in demand from local filmmakers to have their work included, which signals a continued commitment to showcase locally made movies. The festival is going to premiere with a film, European film dubbed Waves, which is from the Czech Republic. It's a muscular spy thriller, and this film was the Czech entry for international feature film at the 2024 Oscars.
All right, we end the Botswana report with some sport news, and it's not particularly positive, Rorisang. There are injury setbacks for Teboho and Ndori, shaking Botswana's athletics hopes.
Yes, unfortunately, Botswana's athletics hopes were dashed and they were dealt a blow following the recent Rabat Diamond League where star sprinters Litsile Teboho and Bayapo Ndori both suffered injuries. The developments have since raised concerns about their readiness to compete in major upcoming competitions, including the World Athletics Championships. However, both athletes say that they are now focusing on their recovery. Litsile Teboho, who is currently Botswana's star sprinter and reigning Olympic 200-meter champion, shared a heartfelt statement after a disappointing 9th place finish in the 100 meters in Rabat. He did reveal that he's currently dealing with the injury, which has severely hampered his performance in the competition, and it has prevented him from competing in the 200 meters as he had planned. And adding to these concerns, Bayapo Ndori also dramatically collapsed at the very same event, at the clutching his hamstring, which was a little bit sad to watch. But their coach Kibonye Mudisa Musimayani confirmed that both are now fully focused on their recovery in order to be able to enable them to return to training. The coach also acknowledged that all injuries, whether minor or major, are part of the deal. They are an inherent part of an athlete's journey, and they do contribute towards building resilience. And despite these setbacks, the coach expressed optimism, stating that they have a target list of races designed to help the athletes regain sharpness as well as achieve peak performances by the month of September this year.
All right, we'll be keeping fingers crossed for Athletics Botswana. Thank you very much, Rorisang, for delivering to us the Botswana report, albeit with the chilly conditions. We're going to have a look at the weather predictions before we swing back with economic news. The cost of living in many African countries has surged dramatically in 2025, driven by inflation, currency devaluation, subsidy cuts, poor economic management, and heavy reliance on imports. This increase affects essential expenses such as food, transportation, housing, healthcare, and education, deeply impacting citizens' quality of life and widening social inequalities. Ethiopia tops the list as the African country with the highest cost of living, followed by Botswana, Mozambique, and Ivory Coast, as well as Somalia. Other countries in the top 10 include Cameroon, Mauritius, Zimbabwe, Rwanda, and Zambia. In Nigeria, for example, fuel prices soared from 180 naira to over 1,000 naira per litre after subsidy removals, pushing up transportation and food costs. High living expenses hit low-income and disadvantaged populations the hardest, forcing many families into poverty and shrinking the middle class. This situation reduces purchasing power, curtails servings, and discourages investment, with small businesses facing higher operating costs and reduced consumer spending. The economic strain often triggers social unrest, with protests over rising food and fuel prices becoming more frequent. Experts warn that addressing this escalating cost of living is crucial for Africa's development and stability, emphasizing the need for effective policy measures to protect vulnerable populations and promote inclusive growth. Zambia is actively courting automakers to establish electric vehicle component manufacturing plants near its abundant copper mining areas, aiming to leverage its status as Africa's second-largest copper producer. Copper is a critical material for EV engines, making Zambia a strategic player in the growing global EV supply chain. Finance Minister Situmbeko Musokotwane highlighted recent talks with international companies, including discussions in Germany, encouraging them to consider Zambia as a manufacturing hub. The plan is to produce components locally, which can then be shipped to factories in South Africa for global distribution, adding significant value to the region's mining output. Zambia has already made strides in attracting EV investments, such as the expansion of Build Your Dreams, the world's largest electric vehicle manufacturer, through a partnership with Pilatus Electric Mobility Zambia Limited. This development signals increasing investor confidence in Zambia's role in the clean energy transition. Despite challenges, the government plans to maintain prudent fiscal policies after the conclusion of its current IMF program in October, and has yet to decide on pursuing a new loan. Let's have a look at the economic indicators before we say goodbye. Thank you for joining us on Africa Good Morning on DSTV 285, GoTV 25, 1up2.com, and NTV Africa on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow with the South Africa report and, of course, other top stories stemming from the beautiful continent. From me, Ashwin Bedi, and the Africa Good Morning team, Swera Jakanaka.